How's it going?
Oh, fine. And how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah.
So sitting home as all the world.
Yeah, back home, yeah. Sorry for the little delay. I was just trying to find to,
No
to add
problem.
your to add your name. I just couldn't find the username.
So what are you doing at home?
So just keeping busy really. A lot of training, physical training obviously, and a lot of home simulator. I've had a home sim for quite a while, but as I'm always away, I don't get to use it so much. So yeah, I've gotten back into that now, and it's yeah, proven to be a good tool to keep sharp on the mental side of things, and yeah, been a bit more fun than I thought as well, racing with the other guys.
Great. So let's start. You went to karting quite late, like at 12, right? Why so late? You don't think to be a race driver?
Yeah, I mean it was it was exactly that. I really just kind of stumbled upon the sport by chance. So yeah, I didn't come from a motor racing background. Most people when they start really young, like 8 years old, or let's say this is the average. You have the extreme cases, like 4 or 5 years olds, like Ocon, Verstappen, and Leclerc. Like they were put in a cart at such a young age, but kind of from their parents putting them in that situation. Let's say so. For me, yeah, I was just going to school, a regular kid going into my teenage life, and yeah, just by fluke one day, I tried a kart with some of my family, just arrive and drive rental car. I really liked it, and it kind of just stuck. So yeah, I had no intention of becoming becoming a race driver growing up. I mean, I was always at the Formula One Grand Prix in Montreal with my family. We always made kind of a nice family bonding weekend out of it. But yeah, when I got into it, it was completely new and out of the blue.
But I mean, the parents like you when you go karting. I mean, or you have a results, or just on a rental karting, or how it starts.
So I tried these rental carts for the first time, and I liked it quite a lot. I was having a lot of fun doing it, and I was quite good. I remember the first time I drove one, I was like one of the youngest. I think I was the youngest one, and I was the fastest one there out of quite a lot of older people I was racing against. So this was in Montreal, and I live in Toronto. So when got back home, I told my dad I wanted to find a place indoor to go just for fun on the weekends. And yeah, basically, long story short, we found the place, and the person who owned the track used to race cars at a very high level in North America, and he was coaching drivers at the time, and he kind of saw some talent in me the first laps going around for never having done it, and he was the one who convinced me that I should start racing. So initially I wasn't so interested in racing. Again, it was just kind of a hobby for me, doing it for fun. But after a few kind of pushes, like, well, if you don't like it, you don't have to continue. So tried it. I obviously loved it, and yeah, the rest is history.
Cool. And what was your third like who you want to be before racing?
I mean, before I got into racing, I was just planning to go through school, go to university,
But which
study
type
business.
of studying?
Probably business. I was very interested in business. Yeah, I was planning to when I like left university to probably go work with my dad in the family business. So yeah, everything was going in that direction. But then yeah, racing took over.
Great. So, but when you already was in a single seater car, why you went to the Porsche Carrera Cup?
So the reason I went to the Porsche was uh, kind of in a bid to recover a lot of the lost track time I had from starting so late. Because again, starting the first time I tried a kart was at 12, but when I started racing, I was 13. Um, so all that gap of years compared to guys who normally start between 4 and 8 years old, let's say, that's a lot of years of just driving experience I was missing. So doing this Porsche Carrera Cup was a way to kind of supplement track time in the middle of what was my main racing program that year, which was Formula Renault 3.5, and as well, driving GT cars or sedans. They're good to kind of focus on, let's say, the really fine car, let's say, driver development skills like car control, because everything happens slower, you feel the weight transfer, and it's a really good tool for driver training. So it was all kind of just to help and speed up my development at that time.
Cool. And what was your first reaction when you find out that you have a racing seat for Williams in 2020 season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a lot of excitement, bit of shock and surprise because when I was told, I wasn't expecting in that moment. So yeah, it was really something very very cool, and I was really honored that it was obviously Claire who told me. It was just sitting down with me and her. So yeah, it was really something quite special moment for me, and yeah, for sure a day I'll remember for a very long time.
So you was told personally, not by phone.
No, yeah, personally, yes.
Okay, and big topic for all drivers is motivation. Let's be honest, from the last year, Williams was the weakest team. Does it motivate you more, like to have a better results in such team, or is just a starter point for your career?
I think just in general, I mean, my personal motivation in motorsport is just to try and, get the best results that I can produce on track that I'm capable of each time. So whether that's, in junior categories, cars are all the same or technically can be all the same because everyone's given the same package to work with. It's obviously not the case in Formula One. So, yeah, I'm obviously aware of the fact that I was coming into a team that was the weakest on the grid based off the previous years. But at the same time, I wouldn't really say it's changed my motivation because my goal is still the same, to try and extract the maximum. And kind of, yeah, to add to what you were saying, in a way, if anything, a little bit of extra motivation because the team is starting from a more difficult situation. So if the driver plays a big role to try and bring that team up. It's a very big aspect, obviously, because they're the one actually driving the car, but then also for the kind of morale and the work around the factory and just bringing that energy and positivity to the team. That's also important as well. So I've taken that on as a little bit of a challenge also, and yeah, just extra motivated because of the situation.
Okay, and what is your goal for 2020 season? What have to happen that you will say this was a successful year?
So whenever I get asked that question, I kind of answer it in two separate ways. So the first way, from my own, let's say, personal targets that I set. Going into F1 as a rookie, there's always going to be so many things you're learning each session, kind of race by race. So for me, to be kind of feeling more comfortable each event, being able to extract the maximum of the car every time, feeling more comfortable driving the car when it's not handling the way I want it to, and when there's those difficult situations, I think is an important thing. But then from a more, let's say, from a way to quantify it easier, to quantify the success, I mean, obviously in Formula One, you're always compared to your teammates. I have a very strong teammate in George Russell, so for sure I want to be beating him. At the beginning of the year, he's obviously going to have an advantage, not being a rookie anymore. So I just hope to be on pace with him as soon as possible, learn from him, and yeah, I definitely want to be challenging him and help pushing the team forward.
Great. And what is the most difficult when you came to Formula One as a rookie driver?
So I'd kind of been a bit fortunate that I'd been with Formula One teams for quite a few years, but before then as well. So I kind of already understood a bit the atmosphere and the dynamic of how Formula One team works and differs compared to junior categories. That being said, when you're the race driver, there's still so many more things you have to do. There's so many more commitments that you don't necessarily have to do when you're a test or reserve driver. So to be honest, a lot of the preparations and things like that, for sure, everything was ramped up on a whole other level, just trying to make sure no stone was unturned going into the first race. But to a certain extent, everything kind of just felt like it was still business as usual with the team. Like I was just continuing my work with them from the previous year. So I honestly think it wasn't going to be until we actually started driving on the race weekend, until I, let's say, drove in an FP2 session, because I've driven in many FP1 sessions. So until I got to that stage, that maybe things were going to start to feel maybe a little bit more tricky or, let's say, new territory for me.
Great. And do you have some Formula One track, which you're waiting to drive Formula One car? I mean, especially in Formula One car.
Yeah, for me, Silverstone has always been my favorite track because of all the high-speed corners. So yeah, I think with these new Formula One cars that they make so much downforce, it's going to be even more fun than driving a Formula 2 around. And then yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, I'm very much looking forward to Montreal. I mean, not so much from the track. I mean, the track is an amazing track to drive. I have limited experience there from the FP1s I've taken part in, but just from an event, getting to go to my home Grand Prix as a race driver. Hopefully, we have a Canadian Grand Prix this year. I'm really praying for that. But yeah, that's for sure going to be something amazing.
And what's track you think is better for you, like Monaco or Monza?
Between those two tracks, if I'm being honest, I think those two tracks are probably the two tracks where I've had the worst results in my junior racing. I don't think I've ever had good. Actually, I've had a good result at Monza before, but I've never had a good result at Monaco. But if I'm speaking about F1, I would say Monaco is for sure the better chance, just because Monaco it's a casino, as everybody says, right? And anything can happen there. So going into the situation of Formula One, I think for sure that's the better chance of getting a good result.
But unfortunately, in this year, you cannot try Monaco.
Yeah, unfortunate.
There is 2 garages on the team. Do you already know all the people from your side? I mean, all the mechanics, all the engineers.
Yeah. So again, because I've been with the team since last year, a lot of the people are obviously still the same. So I've gotten to know, not just my side of the garage from this year, but doing the FP1s last year, that I was switching between cars, between George and Robert's car. When you do that, you're switching the crews as well. So you're working with the different engineers and you're working with the different mechanics. So that's cool in a way, especially that I've now made the jump up to the race driver, that I've kind of been immersed in that team environment and know a lot of the people. For sure, the team is not the exact same as last year. There's some jobs and positions that have moved around. But yeah, I feel quite comfortable around my group of guys, specifically that I'm going to be working around. And yeah, I think the bond will only grow as the year progresses. Especially if it looks like we're going to be spending a lot of time together in back-to-back events once the season starts.
Yeah, let's talk about this season. How do you think how such a long break will affect teams and drivers?
I think it'll definitely make everyone maybe a little bit rusty, not as sharp when we get back to racing. I think specifically from the driver point of view, I mean, I'm treating it as just an extended preseason, so I'm not treating it as it's a few months holiday I have now. I'm still trying to keep sharp on the physical point of view. Again, like I said at the beginning, I've got it into the home simulator, so using that to try and stay sharp from the mental aspect and in the competitive side of things. But nothing could supplement real driving. And I mean, even if you try and drive a slower Formula car just to drive something real before you drive, I mean, it's never the same as driving a Formula One car. So, but then from the team side of things, yeah, I think it'll be difficult for them to all get back into the swing of things because, there's so many operational procedures that the team has to be on top of and kind of execute flawless throughout a race weekend, which I think kind of goes unnoticed to the the general motorsport fans. How much work and execution of so many tasks that the team has to do. So, they kind of use preseason testing as a way to already kind of get back in the groove of it before the races start. And now it's like, we're back into a big break. So the next time we go out, it's going to be the real thing. So, hopefully we can prepare a little bit better at Williams and maybe get a bit of an edge on that when we go back. But it'll definitely be a challenge for everybody.
And interesting question. How can car will change between the winter testing and the first Grand Prix, let's say in Austria?
That's a good question. I mean, to my knowledge, I don't think there's going to be much differences because, I mean, so much of this time between Australia and now has been mandatory factory shutdown. So teams aren't allowed to work on the cars, or work on their computers, even from home.
Engineers sitting at home and they may be thinking about something.
Yeah, I mean, for sure there will be a few weeks between when the factories open and we get to go racing again. So in that time, there might be, as you said, during this time, the engineers at home maybe thinking of things. They're actually still not allowed to work on their computers from home. It's forbidden. That doesn't obviously stop them from doing their own
computer at home.
Yeah, if it's a work computer, they're not allowed. They cannot do any work even from home. I mean, how this is monitored, I don't have the answer to that, unfortunately. But yeah, factory shutdown means even working from home is not allowed. So it'll again, but it doesn't stop the creative engineer from kind of going to his drawing board and saying, but what if we do this and what if we do that? That they could do on their own time for sure. So there might be some little changes, but I honestly don't expect there to be anything too dramatic.
Okay. And what do you think about having two races at the same place? I mean, you heard about like two Austrian Grand Prix, two Silverstone Grand Prix. To Silverstone is good for you because you like this track, but what do you think if this track will not fit to your car? You will like lose to time.
Yeah, this is actually something I was speaking with my family about at the dinner table the other day. I mean, it'll just be the situation that it is for everybody. I mean, it goes without saying in Formula One, again, not all the cars are the same, and there's certain tracks that suit other cars, as we've seen over the years. Even at the top level, Mercedes is always dominant at some tracks. Ferrari was much more competitive at other tracks. Same thing with Red Bull. So, I think definitely if you get a situation where you have two races at a track that really suits your car, it's a benefit. If it's the other way around, it's for sure a disadvantage. But I think, just in the situation,
the season will be quite short, I guess.
Yeah, in the situation Formula One is in, I think right now it's just about getting in the races, really, especially for like the economic business decision of Formula One. They really need to run races. So if that means going to the same track a few times, I mean, me as a driver, I just want the track time. I mean, for sure, when you join Formula One, I'm very excited to drive a lot of the new tracks. Well, a few of the new tracks that I haven't driven, because I've driven all but I think three or four of the tracks on the calendar. And you look forward to the whole Formula One experience, which is everything, the full season start to finish. And now, it's definitely not going to be like that.
Waiting for Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore, Japan, Monaco on an F1 car would have been cool as well, even though I've driven Monaco many times. But it's the situation. It's the same for everybody. But I just want track time. I said the more races we can fit in, the better, even if that means going to the same track more than once.
For fans, it's better.
Yeah.
And what do you feel? Will you feel the difference to race with empty grandstands?
I think when you're driving, I won't really notice the difference, because when you're driving, you don't really notice the fans in the grandstands anyways. You're kind of just so narrowed in on the braking board, your turning point, and the apex of the corner and things like that. But definitely I can imagine the feeling outside of the car in the paddock it'll be quite strange, honestly, because again, especially from my limited experience of being the full-time Formula One driver, it's completely different, the amount of attention you have on your media, fans. So I think not having that, I mean, it'll probably feel a bit more similar to like Formula 2, Formula 3 days, where you're just kind of just getting by in the paddock and everything like that. But it'll be weird.
And what do you think, the short season will help Williams, or it just doesn't matter, the amount of Grand Prix?
I think the more Grand Prix we have, the better. I mean, I know it'll be better for me because it's just more track time to develop myself in my rookie year. But I would think from the team point of view as well, more Grand Prix is better, because it just gives you more opportunity to work on things and develop things, try new things, and just use it as an opportunity for learning. So I think the less Grand Prix there are, the more important each one of them becomes, as you have less time to then make up if you start bad in the first race, you have less Grand Prix to make it back up. Whereas let's say hypothetically, if you have 50 races, it's like, first one's bad, or we have 49 more to try and get it right, let's say, right? So it's obviously a bit of an exaggeration, but that's my point of view.
Great. And there was in the winter testing, there was one story. You have made this stuff with the rating, stop taking shirtless photos. Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah.
Can you tell us the story?
I think everyone who follows my teammate on Instagram, or not just Instagram, social media, knows George likes to post a little cheeky shirtless photo, show off his muscles. I think pretty much with the sign, there's that famous Instagram account called Dude with the Sign. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, where he basically holds up cardboard signs in public, just kind of writing phrases, kind of saying what everyone is thinking. Like, it's actually really funny, a lot of his things. So I'm sure a lot of people were thinking thinking the same thing. I'm sure a lot of people were probably thinking, no, keep taking the shirtless photos. But yeah, it was just something in a bit of fun. And it just so happened perfectly that we caught him. But I decided to go to the garage to take the photo. We caught him when he was getting out of the car in a break. So the way he came out, kind of posed for me with the picture before he even saw the sign, then looked at the picture. It just played out perfectly.
Great. And just some question about the time you was a test driver. You was a 4-season test driver in 3 teams. When on a Sundays you was in the team and you watch the race, do you have a thing like I can do better when the real driver? I mean.
That's a difficult question. I mean, let's say
just like give me the place
yeah,
and I will do better like this.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, from my own personal just belief in myself, before getting to Formula One, I believe that I could get the job done just as well as a lot of these other drivers. And if I wouldn't be in Formula One if I didn't think I could compete and beat these guys. I mean, that's my ultimate goal is to win races, win some championships, hopefully. But when you're on a race weekend, I'm for sure the weekends where I've driven in FP1 sessions and I had a bit more of a direct comparison to some of the drivers, it's a bit easier to gauge. But then when you're just on a separate weekend and you're not driving the car, it's very easy to say, yeah, I could do better than that guy. But obviously you don't know what's going on with the car because you're not driving. I mean, you hear from the debrief, but there's always much more, let's say, beneath the surface that it maybe looks from the outside. So I definitely have the confidence in myself that I could get the job done, and at times better than a lot of the other drivers. But I mean, again, it's all very situational, and I think it's a very bold statement to say, yeah, I'm in that situation, I would have done better than that driver without actually having experienced it.
Great. And I have a lot of hellos to you from my subscribers, actually. And I can't find a lot of information about you in the internet. And just a quick questions. I know that I don't have a lot of times, but just for example, your favorite movie.
Avengers. Endgame.
Which part?
The last 2 ones. So Infinity War and Endgame.
And
it's kind of like
character?
One big movie. I like Iron Man.
Okay.
Everyone likes Iron Man.
So there's no point to asking about the actor, right?
No, I would say actor is someone else. My favorite actor is probably Kevin Hart.
Great. And favorite music?
So when I'm working out, I like more upbeat, so like house music, EDM, dance music, but I also like a lot of hip hop and rap. So like Drake from Toronto as well, like me, one of my favorite artists.
You're listening music before the racing?
No, I honestly don't listen to music before I drive.
Okay. And favorite meal?
So if it's non-dessert meal, I would say, sorry, favorite meal is breakfast. That favorite kind of food is like Japanese
kind of food. Sorry, yes.
Oh,
yes,
yeah. Favorite kind of food is Japanese food. But if we're talking about just like anything in general, just dessert food, anything with Nutella, donuts, pancakes, waffles,
Great.
French toast.
And do you like to cook as Roman Grosjean?
Nah, no, I'm too lazy for it. I cook myself breakfast, but anything beyond breakfast,
like frying eggs?
Yeah, scrambling eggs, frying eggs, making some avocado toast. Sometimes I make myself crepes, protein pancakes, or whatever. But yeah, I don't really have patience for much more.
Okay, and the last question from my subscriber: what do you think about if there will be less electronics, less helper for the drivers in the F1 car?
I think if there's less electronics, then I'm not really sure how much it would change. I don't really think so much it would change the results and things like that because, obviously before we had all these electronics, there was none, and the drivers had to get on and deal with it. Obviously we're going with the times where the cars are getting so much more technologically advanced, and the drivers are getting more and more tools at their disposal from inside the car to some things to help make things more efficient, some things to actually be able to adjust the car while you drive and make your life a little bit easier. But at the same time, I think if we took those all away, we're still the top drivers in the world, and we would adapt to it and still get the best out of the cars.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. It was really interesting to chat with you. Thank you very much, and hope to talk to you later in the season.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Вот как-то так все и было. Всем спасибо, кто был с нами. Я задал вопрос по поводу усложнения болидов и уменьшения электроники. Ну, он ответил, в русской версии все будет, собственно. Вот, так что всем спасибо. Пошел переводить, как говорится. В это воскресенье, я думаю, будет, собственно, все. Так что всем спасибо. Всем пока. До новых встреч. Скоро будут новости, куча роликов новых и все такое. Смотрите последние ролики, кстати. Пока-пока. Перевод будет в воскресенье.